Hey, Paul. This series between Toronto and Montreal going seven like this, especially having, I remember you talked about what would have happened in your series had it gone deep to a seven game when you threw that back to back in there. They went through the same situation. They've gone to the seventh game. Has it in any way changed your preparation for how you would handle either of those teams going into game one?
No, I don't think so. I think we felt we had a different set of circumstances because we had an 8:45 game that went to triple overtime, and that changed everything, right? Like you're not getting out of here till 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock before you finally get down. So I think I was figured it would be very difficult for either the Jets or the Oilers under that set of circumstances to go seven games, right? You never recover from that. These guys have been in the same time zone, short flights, regulation for the most part, not overly long games. So I don't think they would have had to have dealt what we would have had to deal with had that gone to seven games. Doesn't change our prep. I mean, we have a routine for a team that we will play next, and we just run two programs instead of one, and they're identical. So nothing's really changed.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from 680 CGOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, good afternoon, Paul. And fully recognizing it was 12 years ago, more than 12 years ago, but is there anything from that 2009 series where you guys had to go seven and then meet Boston, who had swept their previous series, that you can use to your advantages as in case you need to pull out that card or whatever later on in the series? Was there anything at all that stood out there that you could remember that might be an asset for you?
Yeah, you're right. It is a long time ago. I know that, I might have felt the same in the Boston series as we did against Edmonton. We hadn't beaten Boston that year, but we kind of, so much of the regular season is not relative to the playoffs, just in personnel, right? You see teams during the regular season, they got a bunch of guys out, they look different than the trade deadline. So that changes. And the time you get to the playoffs, your mentality is completely different. So I think I've never put a whole lot of stock into momentum. That would be the one thing that you're thinking about. That we played Jersey. God, they had the lead on us in game 7 till late, and we tied it and beat them in regulation. It was Eric Stahl, as a matter of fact. But I don't think that you necessarily carry anything with you. The puck drops, and that's a new opportunity. So you see teams maybe like us in 18 that'll go a 7-game series, and you think, well, they're going to be gassed, and we win for the first game against Vegas, and then you see Vegas play Colorado, and that's nowhere near their team, and they'll take 2 days off, and Vegas is going to look completely different, I believe, in the next game. So I don't think you can look at anything in the past and really tell you that that's going to give you a predictive ability for what's going to happen in the future.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, you saw the way Colorado came out, and is there anything that you're trying, anything different you're trying to take or to counteract this very different amount of layoff here you got?
We've had more practices in the last week than we had in 2 straight months of the regular season. So it's just different, right? Like it's a whole new set of circumstances, and you have an opportunity to get healthy, and we've used that. You want to stay sharp. You're not looking at ramping up the condition. You're not grinding your team at this time. So we've just tried to always kind of work back from where we would have anticipated the first game and make sure our last 2 or 3 days are similar in routine. We didn't want to skate 6 days in a row, so we stayed off the ice yesterday, got a bunch of our video covered. We'll do video tomorrow for whoever wins tonight. And then our last 2 days going into the first game will be very, very close to our last 2 days going into Edmonton. So we want a certain amount of familiarity for the players too. And then this is new for everybody. So, but that, I guess, what's not new is that's been the entire year, right? Like the fact that the NHL is so routine oriented, and you can draw in a normal NHL year, a normal NHL pause, you certainly draw on your experiences, but from the get-go, nothing has been the same. So that is now normal for us, right? That's new. This is different, no big deal. You just kind of get used to it and move on.
Go next to Ken Weaver from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Well, what's the benefit of having a goalie who's been to the conference final, especially when he's fresh going into round 2?
Well, if he's been to the conference final, he's probably pretty good. That's benefit number one. And then, shot volume and wear and tear on these guys is the reason why I think you saw Vegas play winner last night. 7 games is a lot, especially if it's a high volume series in terms of work for the goaltender and net if they have to work really hard. So it's always to be better to be fresher. I mean, everybody's got a set of circumstances they got to deal with. We haven't played a game in a week. So that's what we're dealing with. And we want to be sharp and we want to make sure everybody's ready to go. And on the other hand, we're going to play a team that's played a bunch of hockey and they will be in a rhythm, right? That's how they'll feel about game 1. And we'll drop the puck and everybody will stop talking and we'll assess from there.
We'll go next to Sarah Oleski from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Paul, what stood out to you most about Hellebuyck's play in that first round against Edmonton?
That he was able to, for the most part, be technical. That we didn't put him in a position a lot of nights to have to go side to side to really have to stretch on a lot of plays. I mean, so he was strong, and when he did, he got across the net very, very well. We did a pretty good job of eliminating the things that I think create the highlight save. Now, so you sometimes maybe you look at the shots and say, boy, they had a lot of shots tonight. And you'd say, yeah, but he was, not a tremendous, he was square on everything. And then you watch them on video. So I would say maybe the better answer is the number of saves that he made look very simple based on like perfect positioning and his technical game was very, very strong.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from 680 CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Paul, did the singing of the anthem by the fans Saturday night in Montreal have any kind of an emotional impact on you? And does it just make you think, oh man, if we can just get to that at some point this spring?
Maybe it made you feel a little nostalgic for what it used to be like. In all the markets, everybody loves the playoffs. I think when you get them, such a big series, Toronto, Montreal, with again nostalgia that goes with it. The national anthems are one of the most enjoyable things that I have on the bench. Like that's a great year. All your prep is done, and then all the anticipation is there, and it's a great connector, right? The fans are singing the national anthem, all the anticipation's there. So it was wonderful to see, especially you're singing the national anthem when the country and all countries, but when the country's gone through such a difficult, trying time and everybody's singing it, it was really wonderfully well done. And I think we all enjoyed it.
And final question to Paul Friesen from The Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Thanks, Gregor. Paul, 10 years ago today, the announcement that the Thrashers were coming to Winnipeg, I think you were in your second stint with Carolina at the time. You recall what you were doing and what was going through your mind when you heard that news?
Well, we had an awfully good run against Atlanta for a lot of years in Carolina, right? I think we went about 2.5 years where they didn't beat us. Might have been longer than that. So it was more, I don't know how early on, but early on in my very first year, we played in Winnipeg, right? And we won. I mean, they got I can remember the game. We got up 2-0. Glenn Featherstone took a 4-minute cross-checking penalty in front of the net. Glenn and I had played junior together, and now I was coaching the guy, and I benched him for the rest of the game. We ended up winning that game 4-2, and I was sitting on the bus outside, was it Target Center? It was over by Polo Park where the rink was. And man, it was snowing straight sideways. It was freezing there, and I was in a great mood. I thought Winnipeg's a wonderful place, right? So that was my first memory of, so I was here in 95. And then, so I had a real positive idea about it. I thought Winnipeg was great because we won the game in there. And especially after you spend some time outside of Canada, how much the game means in this country, right? You do get a better appreciation of it if you're in a different market, and we were a non-traditional market in the States. So you thought that's awesome, that's great. And then I don't know. First game up here, we were down 5-0. We played back to back. I don't know, we were in Mini the night before, but we came into Winnipeg and got our doors blown off us. So I didn't like it quite as much then.